Hello and welcome. His experiences range from traveling the world as a hippie, discovering the mystic side of life, to being tortured in jail as a dissident. All this has led him to write with a deep passion that has moved hundreds of millions of readers across the globe. This week on One, meet the best-selling author and modern philosopher, Paulo Coelho. His personal story reads like a complex and gripping novel in itself. Paulo Coelho was born in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil into a family who clearly didn't share his enthusiasm for the arts. He was pushed by his parents into studying law, and when he rebelled, his father committed him to a mental institution where he was given electroshock therapy. He was only 17 the first time it happened. Coelho also ended up in the dreaded jails of Brazil as a political activist and dissident. Interest in all things spiritual soon had him traveling across Latin America, Europe, and North Africa, reflected in his writing, which often features the theme of journeys and personal fulfillment. In fact, his international bestseller, The Alchemist, inspired millions to seek their own personal legend. Beyond his novels, Paulo Coelho is known as a writer of song lyrics for popular Brazilian artists, a poet, playwright, and theatre director. But there's no doubt that when Coelho writes a book, tens of millions of people eagerly rush to discover his latest inspiration. Paulo, it's great to talk with you.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, of course, you're one of the world's most widely read authors, but you're more than just a writer. You know, you've become something of a spiritual icon. How do you regard yourself nowadays?
I would totally disagree with you. I'm not a spiritual master or anything. I am someone who is, walking through this life and learning at the same time. What I do is to share my experience, because I think life is about sharing. So in this case, I write things that I feel, and then when the books are out, people identify themselves with my books, but not with my answers, mostly with my questions.
Well, that's it. I know you've said that you have nothing to teach, but you have something to share. But it must put some pressure on you when people are looking for answers. Obviously, you're touching something that people are missing in their lives.
Do you believe so? Well, I don't know. I think that when I write a book, I'm trying to understand myself, because it's not easy to understand yourself unless you share, as I said, with someone else. So when I see it, I have no clear idea what I'm going to write about. Sometimes it is a totally unknown part of me who does it. So we get inspiration. Inspiration meaning getting things from outside to inside. So my books mostly, they try to share to myself, who am I? Because I'm the constant process of discovering myself.
Whether you want it or not, you obviously have achieved a lot of fame, a lot of success and wealth. How does that complicate the spirituality of what you do?
I think that spirituality has nothing to do with my work in that sense. Because you're insisting that I am a spiritual writer, which I'm not.
No, sorry. I mean, no, your own self as a person, though. You know, if you obviously succeed, you have fame. I'm wondering if it gets in the way of what you try to, like in your own life, try to remain grounded.
When my first book, The Alchemist, started being successful, I was already 42. So I was mature enough to learn that everything is a gift. And you have to treasure and respect it as a gift, and not to be crazy because you're successful. So I had, before that huge success, times, very difficult times, and I learned a lot about it.
I'll touch on some of those. Now, one thing that book, The Alchemist, did was put a phrase out there for, worldwide for people to refer to, personal legend. Yeah. And there are always people to start talking about their personal legend. And I've no doubt you've been asked about yours. Have you discovered your personal legend? What is it you seek?
My personal legend was always to be a writer. And finding your personal legend does not mean fulfilling your personal legend, because being a writer means writing books. I cannot just sit and say, okay, I'm a writer. So you write your first book, it may or not be successful, then there's the next one, there's a third one, and all of a sudden you realize that your books are doing very well, and you fear success. You have this moment that you think, oh my God, should I write the next book? Do I need to be judged again by the critics, etc.? And then you realize that your personal legend is about moving on. If you had a dream of becoming a writer, write books. Don't be paralyzed by either success or failure. So I'm in the process. I'm on the journey of my personal legend. Not to fulfill it, but to live it as full, as intensely as I can.
Now, in terms of the thing about reaching the kind of fame you do, people then pick holes in everything you say and do. And your Catholicism, you converted to Catholicism.
Yeah.
They say that you don't represent it because you're too mystical and too there's too much supernatural in it.
It is a question, right?
Yeah, I know. No, the reason I ask is then because, of course, then do you find you have to watch everything you do because you're going to be picked apart?
No. I think that I'm a Catholic myself because I was born as a Catholic. Then, of course, I went and I tried to search in many different religions. That taught me a lot, that all religions live to the same God. And this is very important nowadays because we know that we're facing the same light, regardless the religion or the tradition that we choose. Then from the moment that you go back, it was my case, to my roots. It's not because I think Catholicism is better than any other religion. I think that I'm a Catholic because it is in my blood. So when I went back, you stick to the words of Jesus. And sometimes you may disagree with the Pope and say, oh, this Pope, and I'm telling you honestly, openly, this Pope is a kind of fundamentalist person, He's trying to get the church back 2,000 years. Not 2,000 years, because if it was 2,000 years, it was perfect.
Okay,
yeah. But back to the Crusades, back to a period that it was very, very difficult. And then you don't think about it. I'm not a Catholic writer. I'm a writer who happens to be a Catholic. So the messages that, or the values that are in my books, they are shared by everybody.
In 1998, you met the previous Pope, John Paul II.
Yeah.
How was that?
That was, he was a very charismatic person. Sometimes, I had also my differences as far as a Catholic is concerned, but he was charismatic. He had something to deliver. And this new Pope, sorry to be so tough on him, but I think he's just have this fundamentalistic approach to religion, which is very dangerous in today's life.
Let me take you back to your childhood. Your father, Pedro, was an engineer. Your mother, Ligia, is it pronounced Ligia?
Yeah.
Was a homemaker. What kind of influence did they have on you? I know they're quite tough on you at times.
They were very tough on me, which is very good because you learn very quickly. If they were not that tough, probably, if I was spoiled, they told me, you need discipline, and they taught me important values in my life. Honesty, discipline. They put me in the Jesuit school. There was a moment that they said, we cannot control this young boy, so they put me in a mental institution 3 times because they thought I was crazy. Because
you had electroshock therapy and everything.
Yeah, I had everything. But I never saw myself as a victim. Because they did that out of love. They were not trying to punish me.
People will say that's a strange way to show love.
It is. Well, but most of the time, parents, they do that. They try to preserve or to protect their children from whatever, They want the children to follow their dreams, which is not the case. So in my case, as I was really rebellious all the time, they said, okay, this boy needs a mental institution. And then there I went. I was 3 times in a mental institution. When I left, I said, okay, now I'm crazy. And from the moment that I'm crazy, I can do everything. I can do everything except running for president,
You actually went through quite a sort of anarchistic phase where you wanted to set up an alternative society. You got in trouble with the Brazilian authorities and were locked away.
Yeah, that was a complicated moment in my life because we lived under dictatorship in Brazil. And so they could not understand this rock and roll, crazy music, and everything that was different was a threat to them. So if they could not understand, that must be against the government. This crazy logics, So I was arrested. That was a bad experience in my life because I learned nothing from it.
And they stuck you in jail. You were tortured.
Yeah.
What does torture do to a man, especially a man like you?
A man like me, fear, pure fear. From the moment that you leave the jail, you feel really broken. And it took me 7 years to put my pieces together again, because I really scared, and I said, okay, they won. I was 26, and I said, okay, it is enough. I did all the crazy things that I have to do in my life. Let's try to be normal for 7 years. Let's try to be normal for the rest of my life. But I managed to be normal for 7 years, but till 1982, that I said, no, this is not my type of life. I have to go back to my dreams, because at this moment I quit all my dreams. I started working for a record company and try to be squared and follow what they want me to do, because I was scared to death. But then somehow time heals you, and you get back to your dreams.
Well, Paulo, I want to talk more about your defining moments in a moment, but stay with us. We're going to take a short break here on One on One. We'll be right back.